Have you ever looked at a map of the world and wondered, what if one of the continents just wasn't there? Not that it didn't exist, but what if we never found it? Today, we're diving into a fascinating alternate reality. Picture this, a world where the vast, icy continent of Antarctica remains a complete mystery. How would our history, our politics, our very understanding of the planet be different? It's a question that opens up a Pandora's box of possibilities. We often take our knowledge of the world for granted, but the discovery of Antarctica in the early 19th century was a monumental event. It reshaped maps, spurred scientific research, and even influenced global politics. So, what if that discovery never happened? What if the heroic age of Antarctic exploration, with figures like Scott, Amundsen, and Shackleton, was just a blank page in our history books? Imagine a world map with a giant, unexplored void at the bottom. The absence of Antarctica would fundamentally alter the geopolitical landscape. The Antarctic Treaty, signed in 1959, is a cornerstone of international cooperation, dedicating the continent to peace and science. Without it, the Cold War might have played out very differently. Would the superpowers have raced to claim this unknown territory, sparking a new kind of conflict? Or would the sheer difficulty of reaching and surviving there have kept it off the political radar? Think about the strategic importance. Nations like Argentina, Chile, Australia, and New Zealand, which see themselves as gateway countries to Antarctica, would have a different sense of national identity and geopolitical relevance. Their claims and rivalries over Antarctic territory, which still simmer today, would simply not exist. The balance of power could have shifted. Perhaps the focus would have remained solely on the Arctic, intensifying competition there. The United Nations and other international bodies would have one less major global commons to manage, potentially making it easier or harder to agree on other shared resources like the deep seas or outer space. The very concept of global governance might have evolved along a different path without this great, white continent forcing nations to cooperate in a unique way. The quest to explore Antarctica was a massive driver of technological and scientific advancement. Without it, what would we have missed? The race to the South Pole pushed the limits of human endurance, navigation, and survival technology. Innovations in cold weather clothing, transportation like specialized vehicles and aircraft, and long-range communication were all spurred by the need to conquer this harsh environment. Think about it, the development of insulated gear, sleds, and even early forms of GPS were all connected to polar exploration. Scientifically, the loss would be immense. Antarctica is a natural laboratory. Ice cores drilled from its massive ice sheet give us a detailed record of Earth's climate history, stretching back hundreds of thousands of years. Without this data, our understanding of climate change, atmospheric composition, and ice ages would be significantly poorer. We'd have a massive blind spot in our climate models. The discovery of the ozone hole was made over Antarctica, a finding that led to the Montreal Protocol, a landmark international agreement to phase out ozone-depleting substances. Would we have noticed this critical environmental threat in time without our Antarctic research stations? Furthermore, astronomers use the clear, stable, and dry Antarctic air for some of the best Earth-based stargazing. We would have lost a unique window into the universe. The continent is also a treasure trove for geology and biology, hosting unique extremophile life forms that teach us about the limits of life itself. All of this knowledge might have been delayed by decades, or perhaps never discovered at all. How would the absence of Antarctica from our collective consciousness affect our culture and society? The stories of Antarctic explorers are modern-day epics of courage, tragedy, and the human spirit's drive to explore the unknown. Figures like Shackleton, whose tale of survival against all odds is legendary, have inspired generations. Without these stories, our cultural library of heroes and adventurers would be less rich. Documentaries like March of the Penguins captivated the world and fostered a deep affection for its unique wildlife, raising environmental awareness in a way few other things could. This connection to a remote and seemingly alien part of our own planet shapes our global identity. The idea of a pristine wilderness, a continent for science, has subtly influenced our environmental ethics. It serves as a powerful symbol of international cooperation and environmental stewardship. Without it, would the environmental movement be as strong? Would we have the same sense of urgency about protecting the planet's last wild places? On a more subtle level, the arts would be different. Countless books, films, and paintings have been inspired by Antarctica's stark and beautiful landscapes. This seventh continent has fired the human imagination. Its absence would leave a void, not just on our maps, but in our art, our literature, and our shared human story of exploration and discovery. The long-term global consequences of a never-discovered Antarctica are staggering to consider. Let's start with the most critical: sea level rise. We are currently watching the Antarctic ice sheets with great concern because their melting could raise global sea levels by catastrophic amounts. In a world that doesn't even know Antarctica exists, this massive reservoir of ice would be a terrifying, unknown variable. Imagine scientists in this alternate reality noticing a steady, inexplicable rise in sea levels. Coastal cities from New York to Shanghai would be facing an existential threat from an invisible source. The panic and confusion would be immense. They'd be trying to solve a puzzle with a massive piece missing. The political and economic turmoil would be unparalleled as nations struggle to understand and combat a threat they can't see or measure. Global ocean currents, which are heavily influenced by the cold, dense water sinking around Antarctica, would also be a mystery. These currents regulate our planet's climate. Without understanding the Antarctic driver, our models of global weather patterns would be fundamentally flawed, leading to inaccurate predictions and a profound inability to prepare for climate-related disasters. This ghost continent would haunt our world, its invisible influence shaping our destiny in ways we couldn't comprehend, making our planet a far more unpredictable and dangerous place. So, we're left with this alternate world, a world without the epic tales of polar explorers, without a key piece of the climate puzzle, and without a symbol of global scientific cooperation. The Antarctic Treaty's success might have inspired other international agreements, so its absence could mean a more fractured world. Our climate science would be in its infancy, struggling to explain rising seas and changing weather with incomplete data. Culturally, we'd lack the humbling perspective that comes from knowing such a vast, powerful, and pristine wilderness exists. This thought experiment shows just how interconnected our world is. The discovery of a single landmass, remote as it may be, had ripples that touched every aspect of human civilization. It reminds us that exploration isn't just about planting flags. It's about discovering more about our planet and, in turn, ourselves. What other what-ifs do you think would have stemmed from this? How deeply do you think the mystery of the rising seas would have destabilized society? It's a fascinating scenario to ponder. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into an alternate history. If you enjoyed this thought experiment, please hit that like button and consider subscribing for more deep dives into the what-ifs of our world. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think would be the biggest change in a world without Antarctica? Let's discuss it. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.